Oshow. And when you want to get clear what's going on here, it's on the Oshow. If you like to stay in the know, tune yourself into the Oshow. It's the Oshow. Laura Babcock's the Oshow.
Welcome to the Oshow, Canada's conversation on the issues that we share in common, some solutions, and of course, bold opinions. It is the long weekend. I can't think of a better treat for the long weekend than the guy that got a lot of us through the pandemic. Welcome to the Oshow for the first time, Brittlestar. You might know him from his stuff on X, and I kind of feel like he's kind of like Canada's dad. And we're huge fans of Brittlestar here in our home. I am not sucking up, I swear, but I got some of your merch in the background.
Perfect.
When we went on Eurotrek last summer, proudly sporting your merch as we traveled. Peace, love, Canada. So
Love it.
So how are you doing? You're always so open with your life and with your fans. And I know that you had a celebration of life for your dear dad. How are you?
That's right. Yeah, no, I'm doing all right. Thanks again for having me on the show. I appreciate it. And yeah, no, we did. We'd have a celebration of life for my dad. My dad died in January, but then there's been a whole bunch of stuff and things happening in between January and now. So we postponed it until his birthday, and which was yesterday. And it was good. It's a good turnout. It's one of those weird things that myself and my sister were talking about, how you're planning these things and you're like, you're planning a party that you have no interest in having. But it has all the same party worries and stresses, like, gosh, I hope people show up. I hope people show up. And they did, which was great. It was awesome.
I love the beautiful post you did with the pint on the corner of the bar. What a beautiful tribute to your dad. And do you mind if I read something that I saw on your Substack?
Yeah, please go right ahead.
We'll get into some funny stuff. I mean, it's
Yeah.
you after all, and I've got my Tim. I'm not sure if it's woke lit or Justin Bieber hated it or where we are with the litage on my Tims. Let me just read this. While you're living, you get to taste, feel, see, hear, and use whatever senses are available to you. While you're living, you get to love and hate and love again. While you're living, you get to help make life better for others. You get to live. That's what has dawned on me. That's the whole point. You have a life. Take care of yourself and wring out every last drop, because it doesn't matter who you are, what you've done, and where you've been, or how great your hair looks. One day you end up as a sand in a box that costs $55 on Amazon. Get living. So what inspired you to pen that very interesting piece of wisdom?
That piece for my weekly newsletter was based on the fact that we weren't planning on doing anything for my dad. My dad was cremated, and we were like, well, we'll just, I've had an aunt die a year and a half ago, and then an uncle die 2 weeks ago. And it's you sort of think, oh, they just had a cardboard box for like the ashes, and they had it wrapped in, like, when my aunt was wrapped in a kilt, my uncle was wrapped in like this lovely velvet bag. I'm like, oh, we have to do something now, which is one of those terrible things with funerals in families when they happen in succession. You're like, well, we have to keep up with the Joneses. And then just by chance, I was like, well, maybe I'll look for a bag on Amazon, because I don't know, maybe they do that kind of thing. It turns out they do all that kind of stuff. They do caskets and everything. So it's like, great. And my dad liked to spend, but he also liked to deal. He didn't like wasting money on things that we could get cheaper elsewhere. So he would have been pleased with the fact that I found this lovely rosewood box on Amazon, and that's what he was stuck into. But it sat beside my desk for about a week, and before the interment, and it was a reminder of the fact that it's like I think it's saying the same thing, like every emotion, every moment of happiness, sadness, anger, whatever, all gets reduced to a box from Amazon for $55. So you should probably enjoy yourself while you're here, because at that point, that if we're all headed to the same destination, then just let's make life better for everybody.
Well, I absolutely love that. And death is so freaking weird, is it not?
Oh my God, it's
I went
so
through
weird.
It's so weird. I went through the death of my mom during COVID and
Hmm.
aunts and uncles, and we couldn't have a service because it was COVID.
Hmm.
So my sister did this weird thing in the funeral home, and I saw that you gave a shout out to funeral homes for their service for they
Sure.
need a buck. But she was the only one that could be there. So we were watching my sister from our house doing a thing for my mom. And then we went to the funeral, to the cemetery, and it was pouring rain. And they said, who wants to put her in the ground, right? And so I'm like, I'll do it. You know, my mom, who was like super social her whole life, traveled the world. And so I had her like box, and I'm putting
Yeah.
it in a hole, and I felt like I was planting the garden, right? Like
Oh, that's nice.
well, it was exactly like you know, when you put in a hosta plant, same size,
Yeah.
but I'm putting my mom in, you know, and so, and I'm like looking at it. So I can never garden the same way again, but
No.
I'm not sure that's a bad thing, because now she loved gardening. So now every time I plant a hosta, I think, oh, this is like putting my mom in the ground. But at the same time, she used to teach me that, you know, you got to deadhead your flowers so the plant has energy to have fresh blooms, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so in a way, it kind of, you know, it's weird AF, but it also makes you see life and hopefully enjoy it more. So, you know, I love that that was your takeaway as well from going through that weird experience of losing a parent.
Yeah, it's weird. I said yesterday to our kids, to our boys, that they're asking how I was doing and stuff, and we were asking each other how we were doing, and I was like super stressed out in the morning, didn't feel good, all that kind of stuff, and felt better every time. Everything I did, I checked a box, was like, okay, that's done, okay, that's done, that's done. Now I can relax. But I was saying, grief delayed is not grief diminished. It's still grief, and you still have to deal with it. But one of the things I think is funny about death, if there is something funny about it, is that it makes you so introspective, and it makes you find symbolism in everything. And I mean, that's not a bad thing. That's great. If you can find symbolism and help to sort of guide the way you live your life and enjoy it better and do better for other people, that's pretty good. You know what I mean? That's
I
pretty
totally,
good.
no, I totally love that. And you have, as I'm just becoming aware, a fantastic mom who, I
Hmm.
got to tell you, when I saw that video you posted of that Scottish woman saying what I have wanted to say my entire life, like, sorry, Mother's Day, a mimosa and brunch ain't cutting it for all the shit I put up with all year for like, I didn't know it was your mom. I'm like sending it to my family going, this, right? And they're
Yeah,
like, oh
it's
God, that's your mom. So,
she's done so well.
and in
Yeah,
honor of her, it's not a mimosa, but it is a nice fine French champagne
fantastic.
from our 25th wedding anniversary last night.
Oh
We
wow,
wrung all of the joy out of that night. So I think
good.
I'm in worse shape this morning from drinking maybe than you are from your
I
celebration of life.
I did well last night, and everyone did well last night. So happy anniversary and cheers. And
Your
yeah,
mom.
I think
Cheers to
and
your
to
mom.
and to my mom, exactly. And my mom it's interesting because my mom, she was making videos back in 2015 right to 2018 roughly, and then she was the full-time caregiver for my dad who had dementia and Parkinson's, and so she stopped making videos, but she's racked up like 36 million views of videos since starting doing them, and she's just getting back into it now. And that's kind of been the distraction of this past little bit of time, has been that she's been doing something really fun, which you'll find out at the end of the year, which we're not allowed to talk about. But yeah, lots of videos from her coming as well, and she loves it. She loves being center of attention. I had her in to do that rap video in the studio, and I brought her in, and she was all very casual about it, and she just knocked it out. And like, heard listen to it a couple of times, and was like, okay, great. And she knocked it out, and I was like, you're a quick study, and she went, this is nothing. This is nothing.
She raised you, for God's sakes.
Exactly, exactly.
You know, she's awesome. So I saw the little competition on Mother's Day. Your final offer was a pint or whatever. It's pretty funny. But I mean, so not to be competitive in your family or cause any rifts or anything, who's
Hmm.
more famous? Who's got more hits on the vids, you or your mom?
Me currently, but I think that might change. Come fall, that might change. So we'll see. That's
Awesome.
fine. As long as I get an inheritance, I don't care. It's fine.
Right,
So
right, right. So since we were talking about bevies a second ago, can we just address Tim Hortons cup lid
yes.
date? So
Yes.
I have this, and like I'm not sure what iteration of woke is we've got. This is the one I think that Bieber hates, Justin Bieber, when it came out.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I hate it too. Like I end up
Yeah.
pouring down my stomach every time I drink. But it's not a woke lid because it's not recycled. So what's with the woke liddage controversy?
I don't know. I mean, it's so nonsense. I think the idea of ascribing wokeness to a coffee cup lid is just hysterical and very funny in its top sense. And then the undercurrent of that is like, don't waste our time with this. There's way more important things. Don't distract us from important things with this. Because there's so much stuff going on and there's so much information, right? We're bombarded by information all the time. And it's easy to get distracted. And as someone who does, tries to do satirical stuff online, I mean, I can't, as Steve Booth said to me, the lowest hanging fruit is the sweetest. So it's like you just have to hit that stuff out of the park whenever you can. If someone T-balls it up, I'm not going to not swing. Um, but yeah, it's nonsense. I mean, it's the MP Leanne Rood who put it out, her video, which was very well shot, which was also distressing. But it was very well produced and looked great, but it was also a big pile of nonsense. And Leanne, I think I mentioned somewhere else that Leanne follows me on Twitter, and I'm sure she's very nice and smart otherwise. So,
Well, I have to say, speaking of production values, first of all, hats off to producer Lisa for the nip coverage on your merch bin. I wasn't going to put your merch over my nipples, but I appreciate that.
no,
Lisa,
that's fair. That's
yeah, yeah.
fair.
I
Yeah.
just wanted you to know what my choices were in the moment.
Yeah.
I have to say, in your video of the lid, which I think is one of your funniest ever,
Mhm.
like high bar, you made the choice when you switch back to the intolerant old
Yeah.
brown lid to keep the white string. You could have
Yeah.
gone to a brown thread, you could have
No.
looked
No.
high tech, but you were like,
I
why
thought
not?
that exactly. I think that underscored the ridiculousness of the whole thing. It was like, come on, people. Like, let's just take it and just move on. Whatever. It's
Well,
fine.
and I'm neither of us, I think, are in a serious mood today. But I gotta say, like that stuff is used to chase the algorithm rabbit holes. That
Oh,
really is angst.
absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean it is clickbait in its most, basic essence, distilled essence. It's that idea of I'm just going to generate engagement. And I mean I mean I could talk for hours about this, but I mean it's one of the things that drives me nuts because it is not an important conversation to have about calling a coffee cup lid woke. So it's a bit of silliness, a bit of nonsense, and at the same time, it drives me mad that's how you get engagement. Like that shouldn't be rewarded so much. It's just dumb. Getting people angry shouldn't be the reason something succeeds.
Oh yeah, and if you're trying to use anger as the raison d'etre to get votes, that troubles
Hmm.
what your plans are. I did a little thing in the Star about let's watch how much of this copying we're doing of this raging for votes
Yeah,
and for in Canada, right? Like
yeah.
you said something really interesting in a video you did about diversity. I think it was actually in your merch vid, but you
Hmm.
talked about the fact that like does Canada have an identity? Maybe not.
Yeah,
Maybe that's not a bad thing. I think you
yeah.
the fact that we are diverse and we are beautiful for that. Is that where you were going with that?
Essentially, yeah. I think that, I wrote a book, which you may know, called Welcome to the Super Apocalypse. And one of the essays talks about the Canadian identity and says that, people complain that our main identity of being Canadian is that we're not American. And my argument is that, yeah, that's an identity. That is absolutely an identity. Because you can choose things based on what they are not. And I think the example in it is if you summon an Uber, order an Uber on your phone and one arrives, on fire and one arrives not on fire, well, I will choose the one that's not on fire. So you can choose negatives as your choice. That's totally fine. And that's kind of the idea with
Pointing
that was,
America 2024 to an on
yeah,
fire Uber.
well, maybe we'll see. Hopefully
It's been
not.
called worse. It's been called
It's
worse.
exactly. But yeah, that idea that it's like it's the cultural mosaic thing, right? It's like you can be Canadian and that involves some certain really basic fundamental things that being nice to each other and listening to each other and trying to be moving forward. But other than that, there's no real definition of it. There's lots of different types of Canadians, that's for sure.
That's what's bugging me and why I wanted to talk to you in addition to
Hmm.
you're just hilarious. But and it's May 2-4. Who better to go into the weekend with than Brittlestar? I just
Oh
think it's
yeah.
part of the Canadian tradition. But that idea, that idea that if the only brand Canada has, your peace, love
Hmm.
thing, is the fact that we're nice, right? We're nice.
Yeah.
You kind of to
We
me.
we like to. That's what we strive to be anyway, yeah.
Oh, but I feel like, are we at risk, do you think, societally, of losing that? Do you think we've gotten so hyped and freaked out from the pandemic and everything else going on in the world that people are kind of losing that maybe core sense of how we engage with each other as Canadians?
I think, uh, I think the pandemic played a bigger role than some people want to admit in the change of discourse and attitude that people have and civility in general. Um, and I think that some of that was good. It's better to be I mean, we should probably be a bit more blunt and a bit more direct in our communication. But at the same time, a lot of it was like, I think a small fraction of people have decided that the rules don't matter anymore. One of the big things, my takeaway from the pandemic and also from watching politics in the US sort of creep forward since 2016. I mean, it's been before then, but that's the big point, sort of turning point for me. Um, Seeing that creep forward from the US is that there's been a whole bunch of gentlemen's agreements, and I'll air quotes that gentlemen's agreements, where they're not laws. There's nothing against the rules. It says there's no rule set up, but people have realized, oh, we were just doing that to be nice to each other. Well, I don't care if I'm nice. I just want to win whatever this argument is or whatever this issue is, or I'm find a scapegoat for why I'm not happy or whatever. And I think that's been the biggest thing about the pandemic and other things is that civility's gone because people have realized a lot of it's just kind of a general gentleman's agreement we have with society. Like, don't be a dick. That's the idea. Don't be mean. Don't be a jerk. And if people realize, oh, I don't get in trouble, like I'm not breaking the law if I'm a jerk, well, maybe I will be a jerk. And I think that's dumb. But again, I'll also back up by quickly saying, when I talk to people individually, it's not the same. There's that mob mentality just isn't there. I can talk to lots of people. We were talking last night about a woman that I know who's a lovely woman and fantastic, and I care about her a lot. She's an absolute anti-vax moron, and it's like she's in no position of power, which is good. But it's like she's nice, she's fine as long as she's not making decisions. That's great. Who cares? Good luck with yourself.
So we get some flack. We outspoken people on social,
Sure.
especially women, I'm finding. And
Mm.
and when I did the thing in the Star, I got this long screed from this guy named Bill, like not an anonymous, like a full on. I'm gonna get on my computer and I'm gonna write that Laura Babcock. I think it was longer
Yeah.
than my op-ed, honestly.
Yeah.
And so I read the whole thing, and it started off with you're a liberal shill and blah blah.
Sure.
How much are they paying you? And so I
Yeah.
thought about it. I thought, okay, this person took the time to write, right? They
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah.
at me online. So I wrote back and I said, Bill, I'm not paid by any politician or political party. I'm
Mhm.
not partisan, but I appreciate you reading the op-ed and taking the time to reach out. And
Yeah.
you know what happened, Brittlestar? You know what happened? The crazy
Mm.
thing, he responded with this really thoughtful email. Who are you going to vote for, Laura? And how do you see the next federal election, right? And I was like,
Oh
that's all
God.
it took.
I know, but I think that's a you got lucky. I always think that there are a couple people out there, and I can think of it in my 10.5 years of doing stuff on social media. I can think of one person who was horrendous to me that I contacted, and they turned out to be okay afterwards. They're like, well, okay, yeah, and I see what you're talking about and stuff. But the rest of them, it's like this is what like it's almost got zero to do with the creator of the content, and more to do with them. Because I mean, think about it. Can you imagine watching something, reading something like a full article or something that's 1,000 words, and then going, you know what? I hated everything about this. Let me spend even more time of my life that I will never get. On my deathbed, I will beg for this 10 minutes back. And I am going to spend that instead right now by telling this person who I don't know that I don't like what they said. To no change of the issue, to nothing, just to let you know how I feel. It's like that's about you. That's not about me. That's up to you if you want to do that.
Oh, that's brilliant. And that whole idea of the jerkification of Canadians, the idea that let's call it what it was. Trump got rid of political convention. He said, I don't
Yeah.
do convention, so I'm not going to be conventional. And guess what? Got rewarded for it. So people around
Yeah.
the world are like, hey, I don't have to be conventionally nice or polite or thoughtful or respectful either. Let's go for it, right? Wild West of crazy.
I think at some point in life, it dawns on you that the nicer you make life for the people around you, the nicer life gets for you. And that includes like being nice to your server. That includes being nice to people you interact with. If I have to deal with a gate agent at an airport, and if I'm nice to the gate agent, maybe that makes them slightly nicer to the next person, and things get better. And the person that they're nice to next is sitting beside me in the plane or something. It's like this is everything we do has a reaction and has an effect on the reality we live in, because we all live in the same bubble. We all live in the same circle. We all in the same sort of sphere of life, and that's the lesser popular Elton John song, "The Sphere of Life." It was way too dimensional. He had to put it down to 2 dimensions. But it's about that idea of realizing that if I can make life better for in general for people around me, my life will get better and my interaction will be nicer, and I don't have to worry about dealing with jerks. And then who wants to deal with jerks? What a waste of time, especially in light of my dad's funeral and stuff like that. It's like I don't want to deal with that. Who cares?
Well, and that's the thing, right? That's the mortality bit. When you bury a parent and they're just ashes in a box and in
Yeah,
a field, and you're like, all of that is this, you know?
yeah.
So what am I doing with the time that I've got, the people I hang with, and the joy that I choose or not choose to have in my heart? But for you, this is why I think you're brilliant, and I'm not just saying that, for no reason. I don't give out compliments easily, as people know. What I love is like you had a very important message about one of the key jerkiest things that people do, um,
Mm,
but you did it with a tuxedo just to add a certain level of Michael Bublé,
hmm
charm to it. You
hmm
did a video in a tuxedo just urging people gracefully to flush the damn toilet.
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
like sending this to my teenagers, going, "Hey, nuts," So I mean but that's what I think the brilliance is, and we've got a lot of great comedians in Canada, and I love how you are. You're saying happy birthday to Mark Critch yesterday, and saying damn
Screw
you,
you.
bar so high in
Yeah.
comedy. And you're always like lifting up other comedians. There's no sense of competitiveness, but I think that that's the brilliance, right? Is that you're able to say how crappy Canadian spring is. You're able to talk about how much the pandemic sucks. You were able to talk about why we need to flush the toilet people when we live in communal settings.
Yeah.
But you do it with this sense of, self-deprecating grace.
Well, I mean, I appreciate you saying that. Thank you very much. It's about not being overly dramatic about things, or being so overly dramatic that it's evidently satire and evidently silliness. But it's also just sort of being real with people in a sense. I mean, if that's a weirdly weird definition, I guess. But in that idea of like with the toilet flushing video, it's just one of those things where it's like if I go into a public toilet somewhere in an en route or something, it's like, what? Why? Why? Now, don't get me wrong. I understand. There are times I was at the Chateau Laurier just recently myself, and in Ottawa, and I was in the washroom, and nothing would flush. Now it was just a number one. It wasn't anything considerable, and I couldn't get the damn thing to flush. It's like maybe it's one of those ones where you leave and it has to be a certain set of time with nobody. And so I did that, and I walked out, couldn't hear anything flush. Then the guy who was cleaning the toilets came in behind and like flushed, and I was like, oh, he thinks I'm one of these jerks now. Great, that's horrible. So I will give you, there are times when you don't know, there's technical issues, whatever, or your head somewhere, I'll give you that. But there's too many times when you go in, especially into guys' washrooms, when you go into guys' washrooms, you're like, listen, buddy, good for you. Everything seems to be working, but I'm not impressed. Just
Yeah,
get rid of it.
didn't need to see it. Didn't need the proof
No,
of life or of bowel. but
exactly.
but those ones that are automated scare the crap out of me, pardon the pun, because you're like, what if I leave and it doesn't? To what just
I
happened?
know.
And it was
I always try to find the button.
do
If
I
there's a button, or put my hand in front of it, right? You put your hand in front of the thing. Yeah.
No, these are terrifying things we face as Canadians. I spent a lot of time en route on the road as well. You
Yeah.
don't see it, but I will say I learned a little bit when I've hung out in rural spots in this great country of ours. If it's yellow, let it mellow. If it's brown, flush it down. Like it's not a bad thing. You let it sit there. I
Yeah.
don't think.
Sure. Yeah.
But I want to thank you for doing that service to all Canadians. So in the final moments that I have here with your yeah, exactly salute, of all the videos you've done, of all
I know exactly.
through the depression of the pandemic, the one that will forever be in my mind about you is a tuxedoed impression of why you need to flush the toilet. It's not
That's
that
fair.
damn
That's
impressive.
fair. That sums me up.
I mean, you've done a few things in your life, but let's just go
Yeah.
with
That's
that
fine.
one. So in our final moments, as we head into this, and I gotta say, I don't know about you. Did you grow up in Ontario your whole life? Are you like
Yeah. 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 Born and raised in Stratford. Moved away, but came back. Yeah.
right? Oh, so do you ever talk to? Isn't the Beeps from Stratford too?
He
Like,
is. Yeah. We're both Stratford boys. So is Lloyd Robertson. Yeah.
oh yeah, yeah.
Mansbridge tries to tell people he's from here as well, but he's a foreigner. He's just moved here.
So maybe you can like chat up the Beebs about the status of which lit is which. But I gotta say, someone who grew up in like Toronto, Montreal, and out west,
Yeah.
I had not heard of May 24, like a weekend based around like a big day.
Yeah.
And it's like a religion in Ontario. This
It is.
long weekend,
I
bananas.
I would do videos about May 24 and I'd be like, why is no one understanding this? And then you get people saying, it's called Simcoe Day, it's Dominion Day, and it's all this different type of stuff. And it's like, no, it's May 24. Don't you get it? It's about going camping and drinking. Camping
Right,
in
exactly.
terrible, terrible weather, usually. So,
Well, it's not always the thing. You always think like you get tricked by days like today in May. Ooh, it's
yeah,
May 2 for a hot weekend. Total terrible weather, freezing your
yeah,
butt off if you're lucky
yeah,
enough to get out to a cottage or camping.
exactly.
It's the worst. But I'm talking about over the top, obvious, so stupid it had to be satirical. I got to give you one more prop for a video.
Okay.
It's up there with the poop video, okay,
Yeah,
and the Tim lid, and
yeah.
that is the one when you did the impression of drunk Doug Ford talking about fuck 'em.
Now, I need to be clear. I'm not trying to be Doug Ford because I'm not going to do that to my hair. I have precious hair that I have to maintain, and I don't want
Order
to
your
lose it all.
province. Hopefully, order your province. Don't be.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I do love playing the Doug Ford spokesperson who has to come out and kind of justify all the stuff that he's done. It's so fun because I think it'd be a hilarious job to have and be like, all right, whatever. I guess this is what I'm doing now.
Well, you know what? Focusing on the important things, as we have done this entire chat, beverages, right? We went from coffee to Mother's Day mimosas, ending up on beer and
Yeah,
Doug Ford. And if people across the country don't understand why beer got him and bumper stickers, like license things, got him the last majority, you just got to understand Ontario. Drinking beer is a religion here.
exactly.
You know, it's the closest thing I can think of. I'm going to Quebec City for the weekend. They,
Nice.
for our anniversary, beer's not that big of a thing there. You get
No.
stuff, you walk around, you go to art galleries.
De Maurier, just nothing but De Maurier, packs of De Maurier all weekend long.
Oh man, you're bringing me back to my misspent youth, my friend. You're king. I can't even, if I even smell them, I still get a nick fit 25 years later. Well, listen, thank you for all you do for Canada. As I said, my family loves you. And my daughter said, can you just ask him as I'm dropping her off at grade 8? She goes, Mom, can you just ask him why he does what he does? So why do you do what you
Mm.
do?
I do what I do. Mainly, it was first to pay our mortgage, and actually, first it was because I wouldn't be depressed. I was very sad. I was very down. I did it to cheer myself up, and then it was about paying my mortgage, and then quickly after that, I realized that it has some function value for people, and it helps people's lives be slightly better, just a microscopic amount better. And it's like, well, that's pretty good. If I can have fun being an idiot and it makes something better for people, that's good. I'll do it.
Well, I will argue it makes it a lot better, especially during those dark days of the pandemic, but also with the pooping. I mean, I'm hoping it's a game changer in my house. Like I'm going for that. And not to give, not to like promo your merch, but I
Yeah,
will because when
yeah,
I remember traveling in Europe in the like in a van back in the day, and we were all trying to get Canadian flags from our local MP's office because it made us not American, right?
that's
And
right. Yeah,
even at Expo Vancouver, we put them on, and people were like, "Oh, you're not American, right?" We
yeah.
go, yours, I think, says even more about Canada. It's about peace, it's about love, and it's about if there is a Canadian identity, my friend, I think somehow through everything you've been through and everything you believe, you have managed to encapsulate the better of us. And so I love it. And I hope everybody keeps supporting you and your mom. And I want to have you back on to see who's winning that competition. I mean, I'm
We'll
taking this.
see. If I'm winning, I'll come back on. Otherwise, it'll probably be her.
Can I get your mom? Can I book your mom?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, listen, you have a wonderful long weekend, and thanks to the laughs and the wisdom. And remember, everybody, don't just get every last drop out of your bottle of whatever you're drinking this weekend, but also try to squeeze it out of life. We learn these lessons through great friends who share them with us. So thank you so much. Take care. Thanks for watching.
When you care about current affairs, it's on the Oshow. And when you want to get clear what's going on here, it's on the Oshow. If you like to stay in the know, tune yourself into the Oshow. It's the Oshow. Laura Babcock's the Oshow. With a lot of great guests, she puts them to the test on the Oshow. There's no doubt they'll be calling them out on the Oshow. Stand for something or fall for it all. Ontario, hear the call of the Oshow. It's a podcast, the Oshow. Laura Babcock's the Oshow. Stay informed with the Oshow, Oshow.
Your merch bin.